Chapter 37 The Fourth Circle of the Underworld, the Sorcerer and the Illusions in the Cave. After that moment with the demon who became divine, something changed that my soul desperately needed. The cure for the pain was in the pain, and now, when I reflected on why this dark journey had happened, I could trust it, and so I had felt something to believe in. The dragon was upset, and so he nervously began chewing on his own tail. This was neurotic behavior that showed he became irritated in his own skin as he chewed upon his scales. The dragon departed lower without saying a word, and these tears I cried were warm tears, a realization that something beyond my wildest imagination had just occurred. Healing was possible, not only for me, but for all beings through the world, and so I knew that we could all reclaim our true soul's identity. Whatever holes we hold within our souls, whatever betrayed or broken feelings linger in our hearts, I realized that the path to healing comes through a journey, and again, I had found myself mapping out yet another course. This was lower than I thought I could go, but we've all descended somewhere before. And after the third circle of the underworld, I felt a shift, and I began to trust in reasons of how everything came to occur. No matter the tragedy or pain, each and every curse concealed a blessing. The goal is to find it, and that is how we begin healing. When it came to this journey through the underworld, I had a realization that all these lokas, or realms, were aspects of a human body. The 7 heavenly abodes were above the waist, earth was in the middle, and the 7 lower aspects were in the legs that were embodied. From what I could see, I believed we had just descended around the knees of a giant divine being, and I guessed we were somewhere near the shins on our way to the ankles and feet. Golden Fairy, can I ask you a question? This time she looked at me in awe, as it seemed I'd come to surprise her upon this occasion, and so she nodded as her light embodied a new sense of wonder and magic. I once saw a boy upon the earth, and this was when I wandered through the spiritual paths. He was born without legs, and so I ask, what is the meaning of this?
Our body is a representation of the divine, but it is only a vehicle for the soul. Although this boy without legs or arms may be viewed as different, his true nature is complete and whole. In truth, his life is called to go beyond the body and mind, and since he has no legs, this could be seen as a symbol of his immediate connection with the spirit, which will pull him higher into the divine. Whereas many of us have karma to work through, we must learn lessons as we are pulled into the material and lower worlds. So, to be born without legs means that the boy will not be called to the underworld after this life, and so his soul will elevate into pure lands of heaven, where his soul will return,
said the fairy. And where are we heading now?
The fourth circle of the underworld is the realm of the sorcerer called Maya, which means illusion. The inhabitants of this realm live in a state of consciousness where the truth of reality is veiled because it is beyond the scope of understanding. Whereas the people in the higher spaces of the lower worlds choose to ignore the illusion, people that live in this state of awareness are so attached to the idea of individualism that they believe every experience they have is the same for everybody. As a consequence, their perspectives become stubborn, unyielding, and unwilling to change,
said the Golden Fairy. There the dragon named Satan waited, and we stood on the edge of a great cliff which was like an overhang. There was a great veil that separated us from millions of souls who were all trapped and sleeping. Some of these souls had their eyes closed. Others were trapped with their awareness focused upon screens. Some were virtual reality simulators where their eyes were glued to televisions, but all of them were caught in the visions of illusions. no matter what I tried to yell or say. My words could not break through this thick veil. We were overlooking them from above, but they were stuck in the cave down below. Then I saw that above us was a powerful sorcerer, and he was the one who conjured such an illusory vision. By the power of this dark magic, he had taken hold of these souls and trapped all of them. He controlled the media and the way in which these visions were deployed. Why all of these poor souls were sleeping for ages, and they were trapped in their own egoic reality. What was this? Why the dilemma appeared as a calling to set these people free. But all these people were sleeping in an illusion where they pictured they were the main star in the movie of me and not the movie of we. The movie of me is when you forget about the true nature of reality. How life started off as a game, a leela, or a dance. But these souls that were trapped in the illusion had forgot that we're taking these illusions way too seriously. In their unconscious states, the sorcerer could conjure countless illusions at once. Whatever the individual ego might desire, the sorcerer would tap into their ego and project a vision upon their screen or wall where he called an illusion forth. These trapped souls were trying to win bullshit money, bullshit accolades, and find vengeance. But looking down from this conscious place above, it was there we realized these ego goals meant nothing, because this was hell, the illusion of pure suffering. These people could not expand their mind to identify and include the real community. This space of life under the earth is where souls were trapped, no different than Plato's cave. And so they were prisoners, watching shadows upon a wall, while a single sorcerer brought the illusions forth. All the while, they were hidden below the sun's day. Meanwhile, the spiritual community above looked to expand into better spiritual health, but these poor souls were trapped in the self-nature of the egoic self, always worrying about their own lives, their own awards and distinctions, and so they were trapped by their lower self. But even if these individuals thought they were healthy, their souls were also sick, and until we heal collectively, this illusion proposes an everlasting risk. These souls were trapped, playing a game where there's only one winner, but eventually, all of them would lose. If they never wake up, their real spiritual potential would be forever trapped, lost, and abused. There's a contagion in this artificial reality, and as they watch screens, devices, and illusions, they were trapped by the desires of who they alone could be. But as they were locked onto this veil of illusion, they were not even aware of the true nature of reality. At first, I was desperate to change this. Of course, I wanted to wake them up. But what could I do? And so for some time, I too had to give up. It was then I realized that the goal is to stop clinging. Even I had to embrace living without preferences. I could see how in the illusion, people were caught on clinging and grasping to thinking they were the best, the greatest, or the most intelligent. These preferences take us from imaginary situations that are seemingly unpleasant, where we don't want to engage. But then as an illusion would appear somewhere else, the people would seek what is pleasant, so they would go after what they wanted, but only the illusion would change. Now as they kept seeking the more desirable, this feeling would never last, so eventually the impulse of clinging gets them stuck again and again, and so the illusion always continues to perpetuate and last. This is the idea of hell, never getting what you want, but always chasing after it, like a golden brick dangling before your hands, running on a treadmill, but you never seem to get it. They're stuck in the mind.
We've got to get them into the heart,
said the golden fairy. How can we allow them to become open to the moment? It was as if they were fixated on a set of clouds, and they couldn't see the sun behind it. The more they thought, the more the illusions would perpetuate the delusions that disguise the true nature of it all. But I too was a thinking human man, and so I would conjure up all sorts of elusive plans. How can I stop the sorcerer? Why won't these people wake up? Don't they realize that they're stuck and trapped? Now where is the true map? There must be a way out. I yelled again, but nothing happened to the veil when I came to shout. I even kicked rocks down, but these people were all asleep. I kept thinking and thinking and thinking, and so all of my own illusions would continue to repeat. How can we stop the sorcerer of illusions? How can we go on? Don't these people realize the illusions aren't reality? How does one go about bringing forth the spiritual dawn? Oh, I went on and on for days, and the dragon only grew happier. It seemed there was nothing I alone could do to help these people. I thought of every idea one could imagine, but it only added to the spiraling illusions. Then the golden fairy spoke.
The right answers only arrive when you've asked the right questions.
Aha! Then how can we cut through this illusion? There was no response, and so I didn't know what to do. These poor souls were trapped in the underworld with only the illusions and the veil in view. Again I tried to think my way out of it, but the sorcerer would not even sleep. Day and night he enchanted them, keeping all these people unconscious as if they were fast asleep. All the while the fairy had been sitting, and by now I had been pacing. How many more days, months, years, and lifetimes could these illusions keep happening? What do we do? All of these souls are trapped. The fairy smiled in silence, and for a moment, when I looked at her, I was so perplexed by her joy that I found the slightest gap. Pure stillness. I was not worried or lost in doubt. It was a gap of pure peace, and that brought forth a realization that all the thinking ways of the mind continued the illusory thinking routes. I was trying to solve an insolvable problem, and some people want to achieve their selfish desires, yet I wanted to free all of them, and all of these ideas were all mental desires. And as we all want to become something, be it a pacifist, a war hero, a millionaire, a virtuous man, or whatever you will, finally we can find a gap that is the fairy's bright light, and we might say, oh, when will this thinking mind retire? What was that gap? I asked.
When we catch a glimpse of the mental gap, we wake up,
said the golden fairy. Why, yes, the very desire to become something else than what we are in this moment involves a conflict, and that conflict produces a war. I couldn't see the solution because I was so lost in my own desires of trying to help more and more. As I studied the golden fairy, she had no preferences, and that brought her luminous light into a moment of openness. And so she spoke.
If you are too tired to speak or think, sit next to me, because I too am fluent in silence,
said the fairy. I crossed my legs in meditation with Plato's cave before me. While the illusion was still in my mind, there I could see every soul, including myself, trying to force whatever outcome that we were seeking to find. It was then I focused my awareness upon the golden fairy, and in the silence I could hear her preaching. Without words, that's when I heard her nature of what she was truly teaching.
Hold your body very still without being rigid. Very, very still. And observe through all your sense fields, including the mind, that which continues to move. Observe my voice, appearing and disappearing, sounds of others in the cave or outside this realm. Take a very direct approach. Just observe whatever occurs. Don't add your comments. Don't subtract or judge. Don't divide or separate yourself and ignore, or distract yourself from what is arising. Just observe. Very simply, see the quality, the texture, the speed of the thoughts, emotions, memory, evaluations as they arise. Perhaps a lot is arising, perhaps very little. Makes no difference. Just observe. Whatever occurs will vanish. In this way, we train, support, and strengthen the awareness to see the truth for ourselves. holding very still, with all the senses open. Just observe,
said the golden teacher. And so I sat with my legs crossed in meditation, observing the mind stream, not seeking any sort of control. There was something happening, but I let go of the thoughts I was trying to discover, claim, or know.
Notice how the mind shifts around this way and that way. The mind goes this way, then turns around the other way, thinking about this, analyzing that, constantly commenting on everything that arises. Now we take a little time to sit down, so hold still without being rigid, and observe whatever arises between the 6 sense fields: sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of seeing, sound, smell, and thinking. Just observing the objects arising. Watch the dynamics of each of these sense consciousnesses that keep referring to the me. This me keeps saying, I smell, I see, I taste, I touch. Just observe that until there is just smelling, just seeing, just thinking. Nothing extra. Just that. Not even the personal pronoun. Just seeing itself. Just thinking itself. As simple as possible. The more useless you feel, the more useless the I, the true the practice is. Just observe.
In time, through observation, a sense of letting go began to happen. It was not I doing this, but rather it would happen in between the thoughts that were imagined.
Look right in front of you. Look right at it. All the senses are open, in particular the eyes. Everything is open. Take an open attitude here. Just observe whatever arises. Your only activity, in terms of mental direction, formation, formulation, or intention, is just to be aware. This is shikantaza. Just sitting. You're just sitting, and you're just being aware. All day long, our mind has been running this way and that way, getting lost in the illusion, dodging this, accepting that, rejecting this and that, judging, condemning, accepting or rejecting with our mind. As mind arises as awareness, thinking also arises there, and it is so seductive that we want to add on. We want to know. We want to gain ideas, knowledge, information about this or about that. We don't care if it's positive, negative, or neutral. We just want to know. But don't add. Don't try to solve to understand. Don't add to whatever is arising in the senses, including the mind. Don't comment, and don't subtract or take away or judge anything that is arising. Don't separate yourself from anything that is arising. The illusion is none of anyone's business, none of our business. Take nothing personally, just observe, see what happens,
said the golden teacher. But what are we doing? I wondered.
Hold everything as still as you can, without particularly interrupting anything that is naturally arising in the form of thoughts, emotions, memories, or any spontaneous movement of the body. It's okay to continue breathing, continue your heartbeat, let everything continue to move, and just observe with your awareness. Observe all the details of that which continues to move. You may think you're sitting here doing nothing, and it's boring. Perhaps it is. The downside of boredom is that it doesn't need an explanation. It's boring, not amusing. The upside of voluntary boredom is that it is letting go of the need for entertainment, which is the illusion. You could say we are slaves to being amused, slaves to entertainment in all its forms. We can get by without the constant input from the world, the television, our neighbors, our friends, our enemies, and from our minds. What is being suggested here for this short time is don't do anything except hold still. Hold still and observe the way the mind keeps fussing about everything, about this situation, the illusion, the predicaments. If you do that, you're just like the souls that are asleep. They imagine that they like this, but they don't like that. They see this thing is good, and that thing is bad. It's not about getting a better state of mind. It's about seeing the state of mind you're actually in. Be aware, moment by moment. Notice how nothing lasts. Don't add, don't subtract,
said the golden teacher. A moment later, I observed a gap. I didn't abandon anything, and I didn't interfere. Not this, not that. I began to recede right here. Pure observation. This was the gap in commentary. And so the realization was this: we cannot think our way to sanity. In that gap, something extraordinary happened. There was nothing incorrect. When we simply let it be, we are no longer perplexed. In that gap, the illusion short-circuited and stopped. Then every single soul in the cave momentarily woke up. The dreamlike vision and veil broke open, and all the souls who had been asleep for so long looked up. Imagine a movie projection, and the movie is so good you forget you're there in the theater, and suddenly the film roll malfunctions, and the spinning reel gets jammed in the feeder. This was that gap, and so all the souls came back. For how many ages had they been lost and confused? And now the mad sorcerer was furious as he summoned an even greater illusion, which appeared like a vicious attack. But in that gap, the illusion was cut through, as if all the while these souls had been stuck in a cave, watching shadows projected in their views. But their awareness shifted, and they realized the illusion was like a movie. The gap brought a sense of spaciousness, and that created a new sense of divine curiosity. "What's beyond this place?" asked one of the souls, looking up at the fairy and I. "The whole world, the sun and the sky." "What's it like living in the world?" asked another soul who had just woken up. "To live in the world, you must be able to do these three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, to know your own life depends on it, and when it comes time to let it go, to let it go." Meanwhile, the mad sorcerer tried to perplex them with the grand illusions, but many of them were waking up at the same time, and this created a great deal of waking confusion. Now they knew the veil was a lie, for they had caught a glimpse of the other side. Some were curious about real life, while many others were more than content to go back to sleep and close their spiritual eyes. Now the light of the golden teacher grew, because each of these lost souls began to wake up, and by some miracle, the lost souls rose from the lower cave and began ascending up. "What happens in life?" asked one of the souls who climbed out of the illusion. "We are in the cycle of life, where if you're just a little bit aware, you can feel something is shifting, and it won't take long, where a natural separation will take place. That is a gap that allows us to see through the illusion, and so the old era is coming to an end, and a new era is about to come. It's happening worldwide, and you are among the ones who are able to read the signs. We are able to go with what is happening. We can adapt to the changes, and we can move on to the new world, to another area, to another cycle of humanity. And the others who are unwilling, unable, or maybe incapable of adapting to the coming changes, then they will stay with the old world, which is about to end." "But what is life?" asked another soul who climbed up out of the cave. "Life is beautiful, but you have to accept the good and bad as being beautiful. You can't just accept the good, and even if you lose someone, or someone dies, we may think that life sucks. But life is beautiful, because life gives us the ability to know each person on our journey in life. We meet people, we love others, and we care about them. That's the purpose of life, to enjoy what we have, and to journey through it." "Why can't it be peaceful all the time?" asked another one of the awakened wonders. "Then it wouldn't be life. We have to take life on life's terms. not our terms. Some brave souls had found the light, and this was the golden radiance of the great fairy. Now many souls departed from the illusions of the cave, and so they began to climb out of the underworld to live in the true nature of reality. Slowly their eyes would adjust to the light. First they could only see shadows, but gradually they would find water, people, and the journey of life that would follow. Soon they would look up at the moon and stars, and they would pray in thanks to the heavens that they were able to break away. Every morning they would rise and fall to their knees, knowing they were able to experience the reality of the sun's day. The analogy of the sun refers to the moment we recognize that we are a child of goodness. This is what Iron John called the golden ball that we lose in the cage of the wild man. These children of goodness are called to be the sun, just as the sun illuminates, which bellows the ability to see and be seen by the eye of life with its light. We realize that there is goodness beyond the illusion, and this basic goodness illuminates our truth. This is the source of our spiritual center, which is called immortality or eternal youth. At times we are all prisoners to the body and mind, but once we find the gap, we can wake up and recall that the true nature of existence around us is truly divine. We can see through what we're told on our televisions and devices. We can see through all the things we're told to be. This is our awakening. Now we depart on the journey to becoming free.